welcome back to Jessie's bookshelf. I know it's been a few weeks since I posted a video, and it's actually so frustrating because I really wanted to do a video talking about the books that I read in September, but my sister got married, I went to Nova Scotia, we went on our anniversary trip, so I just did not have a second to do that. And right when I was accepting that I was way too late to post it, I thought about it and realized that I read some of the best horror books in September, so I feel like I could title this that for spooky season and still be able to tell you what I read last month, even though I'm super late. Oh gosh, this is heavy. So this is my pile of September books, and this is not even all of them because I also read the entire Shatter Me series, but I feel like I'll make that its own separate video because there are so many books in that series. I also have to admit that I think about 4 of these books I did not finish. I hate doing that, and I am sorry in advance for anyone that I offend in this video because I feel like a lot of you guys like the books that I did not. But that is okay. We're allowed to like different things. Okay, so first I read the 2 Inheritance Games books. These are highly requested. I know millions of people have read them and have loved them. This is about a teenage girl named Avery who has to solve this multi-layered puzzle to find out why she's receiving a billionaire's inheritance. And this is a man she's never met before, has no idea who he is. She's in school one day and she gets called into the office and she's told that this man died and she's getting his money. But to keep this man's money, she has to abide by one rule, and that is to live 1 full year with the Hawthorne family, and that includes the billionaire's 4 grandsons. So it sounded like a really intriguing book series. I gave it 3 stars because I didn't find it to be amazing, but I also didn't find it to be terrible in any way. It was intriguing in a lot of parts. I just wasn't intrigued enough to read the 3rd book. I think it's a bit too YA for me. I'm turning 30 in like a year, and I just don't think I'm the target audience anymore. I really did love the short chapters. I love Jameson and Avery, but I didn't love the plot enough to continue. That's what I gotta say about that. Okay, then I read I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jennette McCurdy. Yes, it's a very shocking title. One of the reasons why I picked it up. And this is a memoir about her career as a child actress and her difficult relationship with her abusive mother who died in 2013. Now, I always really feel weird about rating a memoir because how can you rate someone's life story? It just seems almost wrong to me. But if I had to rate this on my enjoyment factor for reading it, I would give it a 3. It's a hard book to digest, so you can't really enjoy it. An interesting fact is that I never watched iCarly as a kid. I feel like I have this weird connection to Jennette McCurdy because my whole entire life, people always told me that I look like her, especially back when I had blonde hair. I am a natural blonde. And still to this day, I get YouTube comments all the time telling me that I'm her twin. I have never been able to see it ever to this day, but I am not over exaggerating when I say I get about 10 comments a day saying that I am Jennette McCurdy. So for that reason, I feel this odd connection, if that makes any sense. I feel like she's really brave for documenting her abuse and all of her horrible experiences growing up. Definitely check the trigger warnings for this book because she does go in depth about her ED, and that could be hard for a lot of people to read. It was hard for myself to read. But yeah, this book was extremely dark. I was almost like waiting for it to be over just to see if she found any peace in her life. And I mean, I guess if I was rating this book on her bravery and impact, it would definitely be a 5. Okay, so let's talk about the best book that I read in September. It was a horror novel. This is Penpal by Dathan Auerbach. And this story is told from the perspective of an unnamed boy. And in kindergarten, as a part of this assignment, he and his classmates tied these notes to a balloon and set them off into the sky, hoping that someone would find them and write back to them, becoming their pen pal. That is literally all I can tell you about this book because you have to go into this blind, basically knowing nothing, because if I say any more, it spoils the entire thing. Now, I gave this book 5 stars, obviously. I said it was the best horror novel that I read in September and actually ever. This book deeply deeply affected me. I didn't know if I wanted to cry, scream, clap, throw the book across the room when I was finished with this. This book was just so beautiful and so haunting at the same time, if that makes any sense. I'm not sure if I'll ever be able to forget about it. I read this literally like 6 weeks ago and it's still stuck in my brain and I still think about it every single day. It also wasn't at all what I expected it was gonna be, and that's why I say don't look up anything into this too much before you read it. So while I'm grateful that I finally found this super impactful, scary 5-star read, I'm also extremely scared of this book. I don't think I could ever read it again. But at the same time, I also want to shout to the rooftops for everyone watching to read this book. You don't just have to read it in spooky season, although you do have like a day left to do so. But please, whatever you do, if you have a Goodreads account, add this to your to-read list. And by the way, I'm still adding friends on there, okay? My Goodreads is linked down below in the description. So I know that I haven't been giving spice ratings for any of these books, and that's because they've all been a 0 so far. So I feel like I'm only gonna tell you spice if there is any. So if I skip that, it just means I didn't notice any spice. Okay, the next amazing horror novel that I read is The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward. This story follows a man named Ted Bannerman who lives alone with his cat named Olivia in this dilapidated, boarded up house at the end of a street. He's unemployed, he drinks a lot, he has a lot of undiagnosed mental health issues. His daughter Lauren comes to visit him from time to time, but they have a very strange relationship. One day, this woman named Dee moves into a house directly across from him. She is on a quest to find her missing sister, and so the two storylines kind of overlap. And I also can't say too much about this book because it would just spoil it. I give this book 4.5 stars. It is absolutely amazing. It's also gonna not be what you expect at all. I thought this was gonna be like a paranormal, like haunted house type of story. Nope. You'll just never guess. There's about 3 twists in this book that made me audibly gasp. I remember I was sitting next to my husband Ty while I was reading this in bed, and every time I audibly gasped out loud, he was like, "What happened?" Because it honestly just took me by surprise every time there was a twist. If you decide to read this, which you should, it's amazing, you have to, try to read the entire thing. The first half of the book is confusing, it's hard to understand, it's hard to follow, and you might feel like you want to put this book down and stop trying with it. Please don't, okay? It is written that way for a reason, and once you get to the end and once you see the twists, you will understand why. I promise you, it all comes together in the end. So yeah, totally worth it. Add this to your to be read. Okay, now let's talk about my worst reads, and I'm pretty sure I DNF'd all of these, which I always feel horrible about doing. I feel like this one is really gonna shock people, and I'm so sorry. We have The Bridge Kingdom. Everyone told me to read this. I saw this all over TikTok. I was so excited about this book. I don't even really have the energy to explain what this book is completely about, but I gave it 2 stars. It has a 0.5 spice rating. I can't really tell you for sure because I only made it about, I would say, 3/4 of the way through. And honestly, this book started off so good. I thought it was gonna be a 5-star read. I was so invested. I was reading it constantly. And then halfway through, it started dragging on. It got really boring and I DNF'd it. And it really shocked me. I just completely lost interest. I can't even like pinpoint why or what specifically happened to make me feel that way. But like I said, if you're not enjoying a book, don't waste your time. You know, you're allowed to not like a specific story. The next book that I DNF'd is The Shadows Between Us by Tricia Levenseller. This follows Alessandra, who is 18, and she is convinced that she is going to marry the Shadow King. And to be more exact, she wants to marry him so she can kill him and take over his kingdom. But when she meets him, she finds out the Shadow King is just so intrigued by her, and on the same day, he invites her to live with him. So I gave this book a 1 star. I have no idea what the spice is because I did not read enough, but I was really excited when I first picked this book up because at the very start of it, it has a quote from Damon Salvatore. And if you guys know me, I love the Vampire Diaries. He's like my favorite character. So when I saw his quote, I was like, ooh, this is gonna be good. I just know it. I was wrong. I think the main reason why I didn't enjoy it is because it's just not an original storyline. I feel like I've read this book 15 times before. The main character is just not likable at all, and I feel like it's done purposely. She has evil intent, and I'll never really know if she redeemed herself because I didn't finish it. But I heard this is supposed to be a Slytherin forbidden romance, and I'm not even sure what that really means. I'm Gryffindor, so. Okay, this book might be the biggest disappointment of September. This is Neil Gaiman's The Ocean at the End of the Lane, and look how beautiful this book is. And guys, it literally has illustrations all through it. This book was definitely like beautiful to look through, and I'm glad I'm always gonna have it on my shelf. I love Coraline. It is my favorite thing in the entire world. I'm literally making a mural on my office wall for Coraline. So I was really excited to read this because I thought it would have that same sort of magic feeling when you're reading it. It is about this middle-aged man who is returning to his childhood home to attend a funeral. And although the house he used to live in is long gone, he is drawn to this farm at the end of the road where when he was 7 years old, he had encountered the most remarkable girl there. And this whole book is sort of like him reminiscing on his childhood and the strange things that happened to him when he was little. And I think he's trying to figure out if it actually happened or not. I read about halfway through this book, and although the imagery was gorgeous, I think the story was just too abstract for me. It was very artsy. Some parts of it were hard to understand and hard to follow, so I just wasn't able to invest myself and my time into this book. And I feel so bad about that because I love Coraline. So I gave this book a 2 stars, probably because there's pictures in it and I think it's pretty. And lastly, we have The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I also had heard a lot of good things about this book. I didn't personally enjoy it. It's about this romance ghostwriter who lost her motivation after she had this horrible breakup, and she gets haunted by the spirit of her newly departed editor, which is a very interesting premise. I gave this book 2 stars even though I only made it about halfway because I think it's cute, it's funny, it's just not for me. I don't think it's a bad book in any way, I just personally wasn't interested. I've never really liked rom-coms, so I'm not sure why I try to read them. I'm not their target audience. But yeah, it's a unique book. It just sort of fell flat for me personally. Anyways though, those are all the books that I read in September. Like I said, I will probably do a separate video on the Shatter Me series, but please comment down below what your favorite books were that you read in October, and hopefully in a couple weeks or maybe a week, I will do a whole video talking about what books I read in this month. But yeah, I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day. Don't forget to add me as a friend on Goodreads. I have linked it down below in the description, but I hope you have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you in my next book video. Bye!